right, lads. Line up. It's hammer time.
Superstars currently 1-0 in a best-of-5 up over Team Freedom. We're getting ready to head into game number 2. Team Freedom, we know them to like first pick whenever they are down a game. With that in mind, where do you think Superstars will be taking us?
Ooh, my first thought is going to be a more macro map because they showed to be stronger in that department than when it came to the drafting. So something, my first thought is Tomb, but that seems like more old school Superstars. Maybe something more like a Braxis or Dragon.
What about Dragonshire?
What?
You know what? When they played versus Tempo Storm, one of the only times that Superstars chose Battleground over first pick was to take Tempo Storm to Dragonshire.
I mean, I personally love the map. It's just fallen. We just talked about the cycling of maps. It used to be the most picked map in the entire North American scene, and it has slowly become the least. So it just is really surprising. I love the map. I think it could play into the strengths of Superstars.
Oh, I absolutely agree. We've talked a little bit about Goku's Dahaka, but just this idea of constant rotations to trying to find picks allow Goku to make those kinds of plays, to me, seems like it fits them really well. It enables potentially a Falstad once again for Hosty, Vala again for Faye. So not only their playstyle, but even some of their favorite picks.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I like it. I'm excited. I know that Srey, I've gotten to see him play and how he thinks about the map. I really agree with a lot of his thoughts and decision making most of the time here on Dragonshire. So I think it'll work out, you know. And it can't be a comfort pick or at least place here for Freedom, as we've seen very few games out of them on this map. I believe 0.
Yeah, I have 0 too.
All right, so I wanted to make sure. I was like, did I somehow forget their?
I thought that too. So no, we're confirmed.
All right,
no
0
maps.
games on this map.
Yes.
All right, so Zarya Tacit, our shielders, our Gonzo. Do we see the Arthas? No, we do not.
Quickest Malfurion I've ever
Oh,
seen.
why Arthas Lucio? Not like this. It's so powerful. If we see that rotation, I feel like they're going to Falstad instead and maybe even go to the Dahaka. But I just, anytime I see those two together, I'm just, the speed boost moving directly into the Arthas anti-speed boost, it's just so scary.
Possibly a Battleground will see Johanna.
Yeah,
for
Srey.
Superstars.
Yeah.
Srey, we talked about as a noob, but his Johanna too. Later on, some of the niche picks we've seen on Dragonshire from the members of Superstars are Rexar, potentially, if they want to top lane with him. Medivh too.
Yeah, this comes down to a really interesting dynamic of comfort versus objective draft versus, or more of just like map-oriented picks versus just generally strong heroes. Because the Arthas Lucio is generally strong, whereas the Falstad Dahaka is map-oriented. And then it comes down to what is the comfort? Where's the middle ground between those things? And in fact, it is going to be on the map. Dahaka, Falstad. It makes sense. If you commit to one, you should double down to be able to get that heavy split pressure.
Late game.
It's post
Apex
20,
Predator, Epic
you fight
Metal.
on mid. Right now, if this game gets to 20, Team Freedom, they will hit a point where they go, well, we have to just move mid and fight because we cannot control one of the shrines. You will lose them 100% of the time. And if you don't, you lose members trying to save one of those shrines.
This shot brought to you by the impeccable stacking abilities of Dreadnought.
Yep, pretty big deal. I've spent a lot of moments in my life for training for this, and I'm just glad that we had a moment where it could pay off.
I think 10 out of 10, gold medal.
Yeah. It's it's a big deal, but that does leave Freedom.
Arthas.
Arthas. I'm amazed at his priority on what we've seen in other parts of the world versus the North American scene and where he kind of lines up. Because he's so good, he's a decent solo. Back to the comfort, back to the comfort. So that is it. Freedom will stick to their guns all day. At least that's what I get from these picks.
Miniguns,
They're
especially. You see what I did there?
You have guns, and then you got miniguns, I wish I could make my arms like baby arms so I could do miniguns. You have guns and miniguns.
I don't think you actually want that.
Probably not.
What's the ban here then?
So looking at the solo, Dahaka obviously is going to represent there. So you look at, is there anybody in the 1v1 that I really don't want to have on my opponent's side of the battlefield? With Ragnaros being nerfed so heavily, I feel like my thought process that would be no. I'm not afraid of anyone in that matchup. Maybe a Leo. That would be the only one. Then you have to be fearful of a possible heavy ganker in rotation. Something like a Zeratul could be something you want to rid of, especially with a Falstad.
There you go.
And that is going to be the ban. So now what do you do if you're Freedom, though? You ban out not what I was thinking.
New Brack.
They're going to go with the Anu.
Oh, yeah, so they're considering who Stray is going to play and who's scarier for them. I think Arthas is pretty terrifying.
Yeah, no, yep. You know, we stacked these wrong. He should be definitely up here.
What are you talking about?
That's how strong he is, man.
Okay, first of all, I don't know if it stacks that way. Second of all,
he's a tough little lad.
I would say Infernal Shrines, but no, even then.
Yeah, no, even then. They're hovering. They're trying to figure it out. Without having heavy amounts of magic damage on the side of Freedom, I am surprised to see this hovering in
I
Nuke.
wonder if that's because they want something like a Gul'dan. Or Li Ming again.
Okay. I think the Gul'dan makes a lot of sense. The Li Ming doesn't complement the map that well. But
True,
yeah,
but
it does indicate I want magic damage. That's
if they're going solely for even a kill comp, potentially even Jaina.
I just want to know if Frostmourn's going to hunger in this rotation. Because we still have both of those heroes I was afraid of before available. Who else would you want in Dahaka? My next go-to would be the Johanna you were talking about, but Johanna Dahaka doesn't have enough as a double warrior to really justify, putting together. It's like, unless you are absolutely desperate for wave clear, but Freedom doesn't have any of that in their draft. So then it kind of gives you free reign on where you want to move into the four for your side. You have Falstad, which is just Deece, as Dunk Train would put it.
If it were Johanna, I think it's just solely because it's Srey and nobody else.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel like it's really too low of damage to see out of those two. You put a lot of pressure onto your backline.
Does Faye play Vala again?
You could. I think it'd be fine. Or
Okay,
you go
they'll take
Gul'dan
Gul'dan.
instead. I'm beyond surprised to see the lack of Arthas. I really am. We
On a scale of 1 to Hurricane, how rustled are your
like
jimmies?
a 43.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where 43 falls on that scale.
That was like I broke 4 of the scales and filled them up, and then I built a new one and only got 3 on that.
Oh,
one.
got it.
Yeah. We did get the Lucio though. Still going to be another warrior. Has to come out. Freedom has no solo. They have to find somebody to be able to match the Haka. This rotation is very, very crucial for them, who they're going to put in that lane to be able to match it. They also banned out the Anu Barak, which hinted towards them wanting more magic damage. But then the Gul'dan got removed. So then do they go into the, Li Ming and then just look towards their solo on top? That makes the most sense to me at this point in time.
I agree.
But it does feel okay.
Oh, yeah,
or
Nazebo, yeah.
you can hit him with the Naz. Late game scaling, be able to match the Gul'dan.
Is that going to be a
well.
solo? No.
There it is.
Nice. Okay.
Naz actually will be your solo over Arthas. I hope.
You think so?
Okay, so Arthas is the Zeratul of solos. We've had this conversation a lot of like, where does Zeratul belong? He can solo, but he's good in a 4. When do you put him where? Arthas is the exact same thing. He can hold his own, and you can spec him into even build him different to make sure he does well into the matchup, but he does so much more in a 4-man that you are wasting a pick.
Gosh, especially with Tychus, ETC, Malfurion.
They're dead.
Yes.
If
anybody's caught, they're dead.
They're going to die. Even
Got one sound wave, be like, no, please.
Please stop, no. And things crumble very quickly. So we got an Arthas just significantly later than I expected for these teams. Still need something here for superstars. It's either Johanna, I'd like a Murden, I really do, or Variant still. All right, so, the drag taunt combo, gonna be a thing. Double magic damage out of the side of superstars. Interesting.
So every variant we've seen so far, mostly from Naventic, was fully spec'd into parry talents. We have yet to see the new Warbringer, which is just a constant cooldown reduction. You can always be charging in, but it's no longer a stun. It's not even the 85% slow. It's just the base 75% slow.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot more forgiving for how weak he kind of is, just general health pool in general. I think it makes a lot of sense not having the hard CC anymore. The only time I can see going into Warbringer is if they have an absurdly squishy backline and that mobility is really going to complement you, or you went Colossus Smash or Twin Blades, which, let's be honest, we haven't seen any of those. So,
yeah, parry's going to be really nice versus Tychus, even without protection, if for some reason he did go into Warbringer. But I think we'll probably continue to see that trend of a build. So what are you thinking now from these two compositions? I loved the Arthas Nazebo rotation.
Yeah, I think it's a extremely powerful rotation that I think redeemed a lot of this draft for Team Freedom, but I do think the double global is going to force them to be very, very smart when it comes to their decision making and very on point. And to be honest, like Freedom with the roller coaster that we've seen out of them, even at their finest, I wouldn't put that as their strengths. It was fighting. Team fighting was their biggest strength, and I don't know if Superstars will give them the one that they want at any point in this game, much like we saw in the last.
Well, let's see if Superstars indeed will give them the fight that they want. We're headed into Dragonshire for game number 2. I do think the Nazebo kind of seemed to be like, oh my gosh, Superstars in the late game, Falstad and Dahaka, we need something that's late game solid too.
Yeah, and you know, it's not like Lucio Goudet on late game is anything to laugh at either. That very much could be the thought process there. It will be able to make up for a lot, but I know I said that I want Nazebo in the solo, but I feel like Freedom is just going to put Arthas up there, and I'm going to be a sad panda. It just
by his positioning on the minimap, he's sort of at the top of the...
Just that happens a lot in North America, to where I'm like, you know, I'd really like to see this, and, you know, the placeholder versus the solo.
This talent choice might give us an indication of where he's going.
Look at this. Falstad's actually going top. Dahaka is questioning where he's going to push. This is a 2-1-2, boys.
Ooh.
Not for long. I think Falstad will just fly down. He's looking to be able to aid in the first wave. But they're kind of just posturing around. That's the beauty of having a double global go to the same lane. If you didn't get to witness the power of that, we got to experience it on Braxis Holdout yesterday with the Falstad Zagara.
Oh, yes. That was rough to play against, I have no doubt. Falstad did go into Seasoned Marksman, so potentially they want to leave in the solo lane. And Arthas getting Rhyme, so his version of having physical armor stacks that couples with his physical armor he already has in baseline.
So now somebody on the side of Freedom has to go respond to the fact that the double global pressure is up top. And when this happens, typically we see the other person then back out and then rotate elsewhere and apply pressure there, like bottom, for instance. This is a... Oh man, the stun combo looks like Sray is going to be going down here as he has no more Ws. Good kill potential here from Freedom as Goku burrows.
We knew that they had that. So if this is going to continue to be the laning choice for Superstars, then Varian's just going to have to play passively in the mid lane and look to get advantages in other lanes. Oh, Barrel. Collusion looking for it.
That's going to be a good night here for the bird. Superstars lose another from a beautiful rotation for Freedom. Even knowing that they were all there, if he continued the fight, they would have managed to survive, but that's one of the things that it's just, you know, it's a guess. And we took the wrong one here if you're a Superstar fan.
It's kind of a cool laning setup that Team Freedom has employed here. They have Nazebo in the bottom lane who can stall out waves with Zombie Wall. They keep Tychus in the mid who can clear out waves fairly quickly with his overkill, and then having Arthas in the top, and then ETC and Malfurion rotate to wherever they think that they can get the pick, knowing that there's going to be some sort of damage output to help with that wherever they go.
I mean, to be honest, I completely agree with you in the sense that it is really neat response, but a lot of that I think comes down to the sloppiness of Superstars playing their 2-1-2. They have volunteered to take one of the most difficult lane matchups, period, on one of the most lane-focused maps in the game. So they doubled down on the risk trade-off, and the minute they stagger one death, we saw that snowballed into a secondary, and they did stop the bleeding there and have returned to norm. To where they should be able to gain control once more, but I do feel a lot of this comes down to, it started with Sray up in mid. Because Sray is essentially a placeholder. He's a walking experience zoner.
True.
That is his entire goal. Then you look for the 4-man and where they're going to gank. They show on bottom, top should apply pressure.
Yes.
And then, I mean, this is a beautiful rendition of what we saw. China was the first region to do this. They even had a newer version, which it looks like North America is trying to adapt with the double global into the same lane.
Giants will help Nazebo on bottom to stave off some of the pressure there. Goku's anchoring, but it looks like mid is where Varian might be in trouble. Dahako is even going to brush talk in, looking at Collusion as the focus target. Malfurion drops a first kill for Superstars.
Superstars is fighting back here with that double global. And that is, it's a huge win for them because, again, they get so much more powerful the later this game goes on their global spike. So as long as they don't fall too far behind, you have the grin of the century. What is it?
Death Coil build.
Death Coil.
You remember last time that happened? You know what we got at 10?
Syndragosa?
Yes.
That's what's got you going?
I love dragons, okay?
Oh, man.
It's the little things, okay? Thank goodness for small victories, small miracles. This might not be a small.
He's gonna need one. Yeah. He's gonna need one of hosts. He's gonna make it out. Dahaka's there. Goku, in fact, is going to be the deliverer of that small miracle. But yeah, Death Coil build is coming out for the Arthas, so that means more self-individual to sustain, more ability to get poke out, but it will suffer when it comes to just overall utility provided. Not nearly as terrifying when it comes to the auto attack debuffing.
Yeah, so what we're looking at is Deathlord at level 4 to reduce the cooldown for a few seconds. Also increases range, but the big thing is cooldown reduction. Immortal Coil 2, so it heals you no matter what, even if used for damage, but 50% more healing if it is used on yourself for the healing. Even picked Embrace Death, since that was changed to benefit healing as well as damage. And then that gave more of the freedom to not move into Army of the Dead, and where we saw that was the Heroes of the Dorm Grand Finals.
But what we also have to consider is that Arthas decided to go into a solo. And so this is a build that will now allow him to be viable as a solo, as a solo laner, right? It increases the survivability, especially into a range like the Falstad.
Yeah, it's definitely not guaranteed Syndragosa.
Yes.
But the last time we saw this build, it was coupled with that by Cladius.
Yeah, that's the adjustment, though, that I was referring to a bit more. Another one that we've never seen competitively yet, but I do believe has a small spot into certain matchups, is the Icy Talons into Rune Tap at 4 and 7. To anybody who doesn't have any hard CC, you can become a colossal lane bully.
Yeah, just keep healing yourself
it does
with the increased attack speed.
I think the reason why it's not popular right now is a lot of it does cripple your team fighting. The trade-off there, the entire team has to have weak hard CC up in the front line and not enough single target burst, which, let's be honest, in the current meta, that just doesn't exist. But there is maybe one meta in the far future where we will see that response as a solo laning Arthas. For now, it's just going to be Q build. 10 still picked up.
This Gul'dan build might be the build you've been talking to me about a little bit. We'll have to see what is grabbed at 16.
Yeah.
You've been wanting to see Echoed Corruption, but then otherwise be focused on your Fell Flame with Hunger for Power at 7, and then Rampant Hellfire at 16.
And so this is more crazy dread conspiracy theories, like when I just feel like something doesn't gain as much value even though it's the standard across the world. And so a lot of it, I'll explain the thought process as long as they're not going to get too crazy here. Flight comes in. Arthas even rotating down. It's a party here in the bottom lane. But the thought process is that, yes, the Q at level 1 when stacked will be able to benefit your 16 to increase your damage output overall. The insane power spike of completing Echoed Corruption still synergizes with your alternative level 7, which we see here with the increased ability power, which then puts you in a position to where you still have insane Q damage, but you aren't. It's not as easy to hit your Q. But when you throw out an E, your burst onto anybody in the backline and farther away is still absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah.
And it's a weird hybrid between the two that is yet to show. And I'm surprised this was the game where we see maybe it pop up.
I'm not, though, because it's Faye.
Yeah, Faye is, you know, one of the biggest innovators when it comes to talent. Superstars is when it comes to drafts, and Faye is there when it comes to the talent. So
we'll see once we get to 16. But it would be exciting to see.
It would be. I mean, I've theory crafted it quite a bit and tested it once in a while. It's felt good.
Syndragosa stage dive 2. Nasmus, though, is in a lot of trouble from the taunt. Hosty might be trading out as a 1-for-1. Actually, Nasmus stays alive.
Syndragosa just says, not today. Two-man Howling Blast. The flank here from Freedom. The silence as well. Things are just, oh man. Freedom wiping the floor here right now with Superstars.
Syndragosa was detrimental to Superstars. 4 men down for the 1 kill of Nazebo, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Team Freedom were starting to lose out. They lost a Dragon Knight, they lost a Fort. They were just, it was starting to go the same way as game 1, right? Where they were just getting further and further behind little by little. But this way, Team Freedom catch up in experience. They have a moment to try to get Shrines too, but it's not going to be easy to take a Dragon Knight once again versus the double global composition of Superstars.
But if they get enough hard engages like we just saw out of Freedom and are that successful with it, they might not have to worry about it because they'll be the ones with the talent tier advantage around that 16 mark. DK will scale in damage and they'll be able to open up possibly keeps. So, you know, they just got to keep up this tempo that they've really been able to set here in the first 9 minutes of the game.
Looking at 13 talents, as well as the quest talents, Echoed Corruption's about halfway done. So that is the issue with not having Bound by Shadow to reduce the cooldown of Echoed Corruption. It takes longer.
It is very much slower, and that is the biggest trade-off going into it. But the question Comes down to, does the Q getting the stacks early matter until 16 anyways? No. So, you're not losing anything.
Ice Block 2 for Nazeebo over Superstition potentially. It makes sense though with the mix of damage types there are on Superstars and the fact that Srey was just full-on diving on Nazeebo. I would want to take that for some help too.
All right, so the channel is going to be completed there, but what does it cost? Zugrug manages to get out there right as the gust came in. He's going to be just fine there with the stage dive. And Superstar still losing when it comes to kills in the skirmishes, but they're pulling ahead purely just on the double global and out-rotating Freedom.
It's the macro versus the micro game. Damesky doing a fine job of defending versus this Dragon Knight, which is not going to get too much more. May not even get this 4 at this rate. But with the rotation in from a lot of the members of Superstars, they're going to try to burn this down before backing out. And they will get it.
That's a big victory there to help them rotate and manipulate the map, because Freedom, again, they're doing well when it comes to the fights, but if they lose enough structure, Superstars should be able to predict almost every rotation that Freedom has. Since most of them, you have to move past the fort, which if the miniways are pushed in, it reveals the rotation, and suddenly Sneaky Freedom
Fly.
is not so sneaky.
Srey is moving on to the point. Goku is too. We have an Odin being dropped. Goku's getting burned out. Has to use Adaptation and Gust, both at the same time to get Goku out of danger. Freedom defends their camp.
That is going to be a worth trade there. Freedom, power slide, root setup from Collusion. Hosty, no way out of there. Twilight Dreams a little late, but he drops the B step, so we're going to say worth.
It's all about the B steps in the end, the style points. Superstars under the almost gaze of Team Freedom still grabbed their Giants, so no steal from Team Freedom. Makes this push a little less strong. But with the Giants that were there before, they're still getting some work done finally. So finally some sieging for Team Freedom, which is needed. They need to try to match some of the structures that have been taken out for Superstars. And if they do that, because they've stayed caught up in experience so well from the kills that they've received, they could catapult ahead quickly with experience.
We do have to consider that Nazeebo's about to hit an insane power spike at 16, which is only going to benefit the team fighting of Freedom here. And with the Syndric Ghost of the chase potential, I mean, I really do. I'm trying to find how do Superstars win team fights, and it doesn't look like they do. Most of the time, it's just running away and abusing the double global. They had an opportunity here early into the game, but now that the 16 has matched out, it just doesn't feel like that's going to be the case. Sadly, Conspiracy Theory Dread.
I'm sorry, friend. Still Ruinous Affliction.
So, yeah, that's such an interesting build then coming out from Faye. What that means is her E is going, if she hits one really big E, it's going to be stronger than any other corruption you've ever seen in your entire life. But she's also going to have significantly less to throw out and harass the members of Freedom.
Still needs 10 more stacks before Echoed Corruption's complete too. Rejuvenescencia is going to be nice for Superstars. That's a huge power spike for Lucio too to help out. Team Freedom are just trying to take the fight as much as they can to Superstars wherever. As Zugrug is up in the top, still doing as much as he can versus the double global of Superstars, but he can stage dive in to help out if Team Freedom, the rest, find the right opportunity to get a team fight started.
Ray is going to get collapsed on. Beautiful juke, but not enough to get out of that zombie wall. But Iakona's there. He'll save the day. Drag onto Collusion. The follow-up engaged there. Will the talk connect? It will, but he's all by himself. No follow-up damage, but Goku ends up getting the pick here. One member down for Freedom. Gust buying time. Members of Superstar look like they want to aggress there, but Iacona too low in HP to go into that speed boost for the team. They tap, and now it's time to turn on the green lights. They're going to be moving forward.
Horrify to separate the members from saving Malfurion and then taunt at the exact moment to stop Twilight Dream. Very nicely done from Superstars. It looked like maybe Collusion had a hope of getting away, but Goku coming in, making sure that he has a follow-up. Once again, it seems like Goku and Srey are always on the same page together. They're really good, even with their Valera last game. Their Valera and Anubarak.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You know, these guys have a pretty long background together. Both of these players were picked up and one of their biggest breaks, I would say, into the competitive scene was on Tempo Storm. At the exact same time, both of them picked up, and it seems like that synergy that they developed on rosters before that, but then after that time, is carrying over to Superstars and really putting them into such a beautiful position here at HGC North America, rising in power for a team that seems so stagnant for so long.
Yeah, it does. They've grabbed another Dragon Knight, hoping upon hope to continue the siege of structures and continue to get ahead. Whereas we were close in levels before, now Superstars is getting further and further ahead and trying to get to 20, where the globals get even more terrifying for Freedom to try to deal with.
Did you see that corruption on Nasmus? That was one. One corruption there from Faye. Was able to do that much damage, even into the anti-spell potential of Nazeebo. Wasn't expected into, but shows the strength that that build that Faye has. But it just, again, there's only one every 12 seconds or so, rather than having that cooldown at 7. It is really unique. I'm yet to be able to see if I think that it's got the value outside of that one situation on the mid keep.
Well, we did just finally get Echoed Corruption stacks finished, but damage numbers are looking really good. Sitting at the top of the hero damage charts is Faye. Granted, there is a lot of area damage too, so
it's a little, padded.
Yes.
Just a smidge. Actual damage versus just, oh, I hit some spells onto my opponents. Effective damage, I guess, is the proper terminology here. 20 is going to be picked up, though. We referenced what that means for Freedom. In case you missed out, it means in the next Dragon Knight phase, they just have to go mid and say, all right, let's battle, because they risk so much in rotation. Unless Superstars makes a very, very big and detrimental mistake, they have full control over the map now.
Apex and Epic are the only 20s picked up so far, and that is enough to tell us Superstars' grand plans for closing out this game. Haunt will help with Horrify too, increasing duration, giving vulnerability.
Yeah, 25% vulnerability to everybody is pretty crazy.
Turns out that's a good thing.
Turns out, yeah.
If you're Superstars.
Yeah, it is, very much. It's one of the probably, honestly, most impactful heroic 20 talents in the entire game.
Yeah.
We're yet to see Lucio pick up his. My first thought is it's either got to be the repeat on W, increasing, the amplification, or it's going to be the cooldown on the heroic to be able to get that a bit shorter. It's not going to be. It's going to help with those small skirmishes that could happen around the map. Freedom just forfeits the Dragon Knight, not even risking it here. 17 minutes into the game, though, that is pretty much a keep without 20 talent here.
So this is Hosty in the Dragon Knight. So there is no Gust availabilities if things get hairy for Superstars, unless Hosty wants to drop the Dragon Knight. Freedom might be able to take advantage of that. Oh, but Drag, Insomnia is in trouble. Horrify to make sure that the kill goes down just as the Dragon Knight starts its siege.
And with Arthas dead here, that might be more than just the keep that we were referring to before, as the keep is already sitting at half HP. There goes the taunt combo in. Echo Corruption as the follow-up. Roots laid down. Icona and friends move forward. Looks like they set their eyes onto the core as Hosty gets the kick. Gust will be up once he falls out of it, but only at that point in time. Will they be able to do it with only one member dead? Zugra goes in, wishing he had the mosh 80% onto the core. Gust is online, use 50, 40, 30. That looks like it is going to be it as the sound barrier seals the deal.
Superstars move ahead 2-0 in this series over Team Freedom. Things looked a lot better for Team Freedom. They had a lot of very good engagements too, but the constant Dragon Knight control was a big part of keeping Superstars in the game until that late game spike.
I feel like that has kind of been the story that we know of Freedom as well, is that they like their comforts, but they like to team fight, and that's where they were thrive. Like, anytime that a team will go full 5 versus 5 versus them, and we saw a bit yesterday that it seems North America is more concerned about the global game than they've ever been. And that means that unless Freedom is going to change, Freedom will be weaker this part than they have ever been, because it is far less skirmish oriented and way more how do we play the map for the North American scene, at least in the start of day 2 and what we saw from day 1.
Well, they have one more game left to try to make the adjustments to stay in this series. We're heading to a break, but when we come back, we'll have that next game, number 3.
Nerub. Then came a war I could not win. I was forced into servitude. But here, in this strange place, no one commands my power! I will conquer the Nexus! Those who oppose me shall embrace the web of death. I am a Nubarak. I ruled once before. I shall